Death. It's not something we like to think about, and we definitely don't want to talk about it. Is death a subject to be ignored? If I don't think about it or talk about it, it won't happen. It will just go away. Well, unfortunately, that's the way a lot of people think. Or I'll think about that later. Death can't happen to me now. I'm too young. But is that a Torah-based way to look at death? Does Torah ignore death? Absolutely not. It doesn't shy away from talking about it. In fact, this Parsha, Vayechi, tells us about the deaths of two righteous godly men, Jacob and Joseph. And I'd like to take a few minutes just to look at those two deaths, what led up to them, what was happening, and maybe we can learn something to have a Torah view of death and how to prepare for it. So bear with me on this. I know it's not a topic, again, like I said, that we want to even talk about or think about, but it is necessary. So first, let's look at Jacob. When he realized that he was coming to the end of his days, he called Joseph in and blessed Joseph's two sons, and then he gave instructions for his burial. He made sure that they understood that he wanted to be taken back to Canaan, to be buried in the cave where Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah and Leah were buried. He gathered his sons around and gave them blessings. He looked at each son and his individual situation, reminded them of who they were, blessed them, and wanted to give them encouragement for the future and to prepare them for the future. He did not shy away from facing his death. And one interesting phrase is when Jacob had done all of this, he expired and was gathered to his people. I think that's a beautiful phrase. Well, sometime later, we look at Joseph's death, and what did he do? Well, he followed his father's example in several ways. Before he died, Joseph's brothers, they were concerned that now that Jacob was gone, Joseph might decide to take revenge and vengeance on them for what they had done. And they were still concerned about that. So before he died, Joseph encouraged them and told them that no, they did not have anything to fear from him. Joseph was making sure that all of his relationships were in order, that there was nothing left undone. And he also gave instructions for his burial. He wanted them to, when they left Egypt many years later, that they would take his bones from Egypt. He reassured his brothers and the family that was around him that God would not forget them while they were in Egypt. He reassured them that God would remember them and would bring them back to Canaan. And then it says he died and he was placed in a coffin. And we know from reading in Exodus later that Moses did fulfill Joseph's wishes and brought his bones in out of Egypt. So what can we learn from the deaths of these two righteous men, Jacob and Joseph? Well, it seems that they didn't view death as the end. In fact, they were looking more to the future in their final days. They wanted to encourage those who would remain. They were hopeful. They believed that God would bring them out of Egypt, that they would be back into the land that he had promised them. And it seems that they believed that everything serves a purpose in life, even death. So is death really something to be ignored, to be feared, to run away from? Or can we look at it with positive, that it's we can leave something of value behind. We can encourage those who are left behind. Thank you for listening to these Parsha moments.